Hey everyone, in this video I want to go over arrays in C#. So if you can see on the right hand side here, I've got an image up. So an array is a way to store multiple variables. We know a single variable has a data type, and we can store that single value as one value that's saved to memory. It's named. So we know that we could create multiple places in memory for names using multiple variables. So here we have name1, name2, and if we ran this, we would see in memory that there were multiple string values in memory. Now, uh, this is an easy way to create multiple variables, but it's not very practical in a program that has many variables. So what we do is in programming is we use something called a data structure or a collection object. And data structure is just a specific way to store multiple values and work with multiple values in memory. There are a lot of different data structures. Array is one of the most simple ones, and this is what an array looks like in memory. So although we don't store things in memory one thing after another in terms of paging and the addresses of our actual registers, but in an array we say that the array is contiguous in memory, meaning one value comes after the other. And in almost all programming languages, we start with the value 0. So here's an example of an array. These are the actual values in memory. That's 25, 40, 65. This is an array with integer values. And we call each one of these an element. So an element would be almost like we had one of those individual variables in our program. It would be a single value within the array. And the way that we access each value is using its index. And with an array, we say that it starts with the 0th element, which is just a fancy way of saying the first index is 0. And we also refer to this in more commonly, I guess, as the first element. So element 0 or the first element. And you can notice that this array has 5 elements. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The indexes to access those are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in general terms, an array starts with the value 0. The first element is value 0. And the last element is going to be the length of the array minus 1. So 5 elements in this array, starts with 0, ends with the value 4. So let's go ahead and create an array. So this is the syntax in C#. So we start with the data type, just like a variable. But then we have these square brackets after the variable, indicating that it's going to be an array. And I'll call this one names. And then an array is actually a reference element, a reference type, meaning that it's pointing to somewhere in memory. In order to instantiate it, we need, or actually to actually construct it or put it into memory, we need to use this new keyword. And we'll also see another way to do it without the new keyword later. But for now, to just create it, we need this new keyword, the data type, and then actually we're going to put the length of the array into those square brackets. And traditionally, in most programming languages, we say that an array is fixed length. So we don't really want to go out and add elements past 3. One, we can't add it unless we rebuild it, and typically in like a traditional programming language, that means what we're going to do is we're going to build another array in memory with more elements, and then we're going to copy each element individually. So it's kind of a process intensive operation to do. So let's create this array. And so with this one line of code now, we've created 4 string variables. We call them elements inside of this array that we've called names. So to access the individual elements, so for instance, the 0th or the first element, we use what's called an array access statement. So we say names 0 equals, and then we can specify a value. Names 1 equals, and we have a value names 2, sorry about that, equals, and a value. Okay, so now we have 3 values, and if we run this, we'll see that it creates an array in memory, and it creates 3 string elements. You can see the type here is string, and we access that with this index. And as we run through each of these statements, it's just like assigning a value back, this right to left assignment operator. We're assigning a value back to this element 0, which is like an individual string variable. And as we run these statements, you'll see in memory that each one of these has a value. So here's names. It is a string array type, and these are the values. Element 0 has the value L. Sue has the value 1. Barry has the value 2. So just a really easy use of a string array in C#. Again, remember that we're declaring it with these square brackets. We have the data type, square brackets, the name of the array, and this is how we construct it in memory. The new operator, again the data type, and then in square brackets we have the length of the array, and this is how we access each individual value. Now, we can read that value as well, again using the array access statement with that index number in it. So if we ran this, it would just output L. Okay, so that's a very simple example of an array. In the next video, we'll talk about using a for loop to actually go through and process each value in